stories out there about hacked Pokemon games. Some of them really quite neat, such as the one about a version where you get a ghost as a starter. Some are rather ridiculous, silly stories about individuals dying after playing a game, or the game talking to them. God, don't these writers know that less is more when it comes to these kinds of stories? Ah, well, I digress. I grew interested in these hacked games that are apparently in any thrift store, on eBay, or handed out by homeless people to random passerbys. I didn't have the pleasure of meeting these creepy people. I merely found this particular cartridge in a trash bin in the garbage truck that was backed into my neighbor's dumpster. I noticed the game and asked the trash man if I could take it, and he really didn't seem to mind. It was thrown away after all. I, of course, checked with my neighbor to confirm if they actually didn't want it, though they seemed perplexed, as they had never really seen it before. Their son made a grab for it, a little boy who saw the Charizard on the cover and cried out, "Pokemon! I want Mommy!" But his mother told him no, seeing as how I had found it. He didn't even really have a Game Boy anyway, he just liked Pokemon apparently. Thinking nothing else more, I simply went home, looking at the cartridge sticker on the way. Just plain old red version. The sticker torn slightly across the Charizard's neck. But that was to be expected with such an old game. I had blue version as a kid, so I was a bit eager to see the, albeit minimal, differences red version had. I was rather disappointed by what I saw when the title screen showed up. Pokémon Strangled Red version. Damn it, it was a hack. Hacks are neat and all, but they have zero monetary value, and the originals are quite valuable by now, and I wanted to play red anyway, not this crap. Oh well, it was free, might as well try it. The name was odd, however. Strangled Red? That made no sense. Not even in the morbid description of someone being asphyxiated, as people turn blue when choking, not red. Who knows, maybe there was a pair of these hacks and I just got the red one. The more I thought about this, though, the more interested I became. My initial disappointment turned into curiosity. I wanted to know what the creator had made, and I was going to note everything that I saw. The first oddity I noticed was the start screen had a Charizard next to the trainer instead of a Charmander. Also, the Pokemon never cycled through the original version. It just stayed with Charizard, even after 5 minutes of waiting. Shrugging, I hit start, noticing that there was no Charizard cry as I did, like there were supposed to be. I saw that there was a continue option, so I figured I'd do what everybody else did with used games and see what the previous owner had done. No. I blinked with surprise. No? What do you mean, no? The game wouldn't let me continue no matter what, though on the 4th attempt I heard the Charizard cry. Quiet and barely audible, but still there. Shrugging it off, I decided to just hit new game like it would have done after I checked the old file anyway. The screen cut to black for a while. No Professor Oak, no starting theme, just nothing at all. Eventually the screen came back, showing a bedroom, 2 beds, 2 TVs, and a computer in the corner. My trainer sprite was the usual one, consisting with your original red version. I was curious as to why it didn't ask me my name, though that was answered as I opened up the pause menu and noticed my trainer was named Steven. No, this isn't my real name or some stupid crap like that. The game isn't self-aware or haunted, or at least not that I know of. It just had a name chosen already. Curious, I saw that he had the starter amount of money, no badges, and he didn't look like red either. His hair was longer, almost reaching halfway down his back. Red's usual smile replaced with a confident smirk. Honestly, I found the sprite much cooler than Red. Next, I checked on his Pokemon. A single Charmander, level 5, named Mickey. Nothing was odd about it, or should I say her, with the name and all. She had to be getting Charmander stats, she only knew Scratch and Tail Whip, basic stuff. The game seemed relatively normal. Returning to the game, I walked around the room, noticing Steven's long hair was present on the back of my trainer's sprite, when my back was turned to face the camera. I didn't recognize the house, but I descended the stairs to see more. Downstairs was another trainer, who spoke to me the instant I came down. Mike.
Ready yet?
Steven.
You bet I am.
I assumed this Mike was my rival, pre-decided for me. A replacement of Blue, most likely. though I thought back to the bedroom having 2 beds, realizing that they weren't just rivals, they were brothers. They talked back and forth, basic Pokemon dialogue, becoming a Pokemaster, catching them all, stuff like that, before having a little argument over which is better, Charmander or Squirtle, which of course led to the introduction battle, like the one versus Blue in the lab. Simple enough, scratch, tackle, till I won purely for having the first turn. I took note at how much better Steven's sprite looked in combat than Red's. A different pose, his hair looked like it was blowing in the wind, a brief minor upgrade, but still much nicer. I left the house after some more banter with my brother, stepping out with the Pallet Town theme. Going to the east, I found that this was indeed Pallet Town. The houses was simply on the outskirt of the west. I noted that there was no mysterious grassy field like in the normal Pallet Town. Wandering about, I decided to check in on Red's home. His mother was inside, and when I talked to her, she commented on how handsome Steven looked, hoping her son would look up to him as a role model for when he became a trainer himself next year, which of course led me to realize that this game took place a year before the original Pokémon. Red was even upstairs playing on the SNES in his room, commenting,
"I'm gonna be the best too, when it's my turn."
I was starting to like this hack. It was interesting. A completely new adventure, a different character. Hell, Steven even seemed to have a history with people in his town. A reputation. A personality beyond a silent protagonist. The people in town actually talked to him as a person, making conversation, not just spouting tutorial crap. Even Blue's sister had a new dialogue, and they seemed to be in a relationship too, as the dialogue ended with a heart and a kiss over his head. Professor Oak simply wished me well, giving me a Pokédex to aid my adventure. He wasn't giving it to me to be the reason behind my adventure like every other Pokemon game out there. He just gave it to me out of kindness. Something to help me on my way. A gift. I was liking this more and more with each second. The game seemed to have an actual story now. I was somebody, not just some cookie-cutter protagonist anyone could be, not some blank sheet that could be replaced without notice. The story was different, though the actual gameplay remained unchanged. I went north like I was supposed to, went from town to town, collected badges, received the praise of the leaders. Steven's fame even seemed to spread, as some NPCs would talk to like they knew him. I used Mickey for every battle, and she was growing surprisingly fast. She handled Brock with ease and even pounded Misty with no trouble at all. She wasn't as adversely affected by super effective attacks as others, and did more damage than a regular Charmander. She was a veritable powerhouse. She even became a Charizard at the mere level of 25. Not bad, if I must say myself. Things started to get weird as soon as I reached Lavender Town. I know. Lavender Town is a focus behind every creepy story and the like, but it was one of the only places that was noticeably different. There was no Team Rocket invasion, which I found odd, though I did remember that this was a year in the past, so the invasion wouldn't occur until Red's time. I tried to enter Pokemon Tower, aiming to get a Ghastly, but that's when it got odd. Steven.
I have no reason to be here.
Steven wouldn't go into the Pokemon Tower no matter what I did. This was weird. I mean, hell, there are a million places in Kanto you really don't have to be at, like little random houses with nothing but children NPCs, for example. Why was it here that Steven wouldn't enter? With a shrug, I figured I wouldn't need a Ghastly, seeing as how Mickey could handle anything, so I simply went on my way, Lavender Town serving really no purpose other than a passageway with a Poké Center. The game progressed normally from there, and the remaining gyms fell, and eventually I made my way to the Elite Four and defeated them. As with Blue, my brother, Mike was there before me, initializing the championship battles, which Mickey swept with ease. The aftermath of the battle was quite pleasant. None of the tension that was present between Red and Blue at the end of their match. The brothers congratulated themselves on their progress and shook hands, but when the screen went white, no Hall of Fame nor any credits. When the screen did come back, it was at the house again. The two brothers were sitting at the computer, conversing with one another.
Steven, I don't want to.
Mike,
Come on, I just gotta borrow her for just a second to finish the Pokédex. The entry won't register until she recognizes me as a master for just a second.
Steven.
But she's my Mickey.
Mike.
I promise I'll give her back. Come on, please?
Yes? No. I was a bit perplexed, so I hit no just to be cautious.
Come on, please?
No.
Come on, please?
I realized that this would just simply continue to loop until I hit yes. So I did, just to see what would ultimately happen. Mike.
Alright, this'll just take a second. Then we'll be Pokemon Masters.
The scene then changed to the animation shown when two people trade Pokemon, which I found a bit weird, seeing as I was solo. But whatever. This was what was supposed to happen during the game. Mickey went first, and I watched lazily as she began to travel down the trading tube. That made me jump. The sudden noise resonated in my silent bedroom, loud due to the volume being way up. Looking at the screen, I noticed the game had seemed to freeze. Mickey's still in mid-trade, but the game wasn't doing anything. With a sigh, I just turned off the game, wondering when my last save was. When the game turned back on, I stared at a moment at the start screen. There was no Charizard next to the trainer. Upon pressing start, I saw the new game option was absent, leaving only continue. There was, strange to say the least, so I selected it. The game started without even showing my stats as usual, and my jaw dropped at what I was greeted with. 1 year later. The Lavender Town theme came first, playing its normal way. The screen slowly faded in from blackness. Steven was in the Pokémon Tower, which made the music even stranger, seeing as the tower had its own theme. He was standing in front of a tombstone, not doing anything. Wondering what was going on, I pressed A. Steven didn't wind up saying anything. Confused, I tried walking, realizing that I was indeed in control at the moment. I brought up the pause menu and checked my party. Mickey was gone. Not just Mickey, all of my Pokemon. He had nothing. The Pokédex was absent from the menu, his bag was empty. Honestly concerned now, I checked his trainer card. He had no money, he had no badges, his playtime was 8,795 hours, which was impossible as I had only 30 logged in before. But that wasn't the strangest part. His picture. The picture of the handsome, confident young trainer was different. His eyes were blank, his face turned slightly down. That smirk of his was gone, replaced by a lack of expression at all. That long hair of his, before in a perfect perm, was now messy and unkempt. I couldn't look at him anymore. I closed the menu, and then I went over to move out of the tower. But with every step I took away from the tombstone, the screen flickered like it did when a Pokemon was poisoned. Gulping, I brought up the trainer card again. The picture was getting worse. Every step I took, he hung his head more and more. His shoulders slumped. He bent over. By the time I had exited the tower, he was on his knees, hands to his face, hair draped across him. I had guessed already what had gone on, but this clinched it. I began to put some things together in my mind. I had always wondered why there was no champion in the original games besides your rival. Why is it that you, the protagonist, had to beat your rival when he just waltzed in, no previous champion to challenge? Then it struck me. The answer was right here. The previous champion had given up. His precious Mickey was apparently dead, and with her, so died a part of him. His Pokédex and all other Pokemon, his badges, his fame, all of it, he threw it all away. And that year that I had missed, the year where all those hours came from, I even did the math. There are 8,765 hours in a year. Add that to my 30 from before and it matched up. Even so, the game kept going. This couldn't have been the ending, I thought. I mean, what else was there to do? I had no Pokédex, no Pokemon, no anything. What was I supposed to even be doing? I talked with everyone in the town, but they all said similar things to me.
Are you okay? Still mourning, I see. Everything will be alright. Please, is there anything that we can do for you?
Steven never replied to them, and they all simply said the same things over and over. I couldn't put the game down now. This is all so strange. Curious, I headed off into the tall grass and eventually got into a battle with a Rattata. No Pokemon was sent out, just Steven's sprite. I was wondering how in the world I'd battle. Wild Rattata let you be. The battle ended without anything happening. This was certainly interesting, and it happened with every Pokemon I encountered. Wild Pidgeotty ignored you. Wild Ponytail wandered off. The music never changed either. No matter where I went, the Lavender Town came from the speakers, following me. Sometimes slowed down slightly, sometimes not. I searched everywhere, every town, talked with everybody, wondering just what the hell I needed to do. My frustration was mixing with the depressing atmosphere of all this, making the experience altogether unnerving and uncomfortable. But I couldn't tear myself away. I was just starting to get a bit angry, though. Nobody was telling me anything. They just gave me their condolences and trying to give me items like lemonade or coffee, and each met with, "Steven, no." I slapped myself for idiocy, suddenly realizing how the likely answer was right in front of me. Pallet Town, of course. When I went there, though, which took a long time, having to walk, with no Pokemon to fly with and no bicycle to ride, and Steven only seemed to move about half the regular movement speed, it wasn't much different. I first tried talking to Professor Oak first.
"These things happen. You were just unlucky."
Then I tried talking to Blue's sister.
Please don't leave home again."
Red's mom wouldn't even talk to me at all. With nowhere else in mind to go, I walked to the west, finding the house from the beginning, which I had never entered since leaving Pallet Town. Inside was Mike, but talking to him was honestly just as useless as anything else. Mike.
I'm so sorry."
I pondered for a moment if this was really the ending. Steven doomed to do nothing but roam Kanto in misery, haunted by the memories, forced to listen to everyone's concerns about him. As a last-ditch effort to do anything, I went to the bedroom and walked over to the bed. "Steven,
I'm going to sleep now."
The screen faded to black for a moment, but then slowly faded back in, the world having a black tint to it. The Mike sprite lying in the other bed. I assumed that it must have been night at this point in time. "Steven,
I'm going to do it.
Steven,
It can bring her back. It can do anything."
what the hell was it? Something that could do anything? I couldn't for the life of me figure it out. Wandering about, I tried to leave Pallet Town the usual way. "Steven."
"Not that way."
It didn't work. I tried the houses. "Steven."
"Screw them."
I quirked my eyebrow at that, forgetting for a moment this was not a real Pokemon game. The vulgarity just took me off guard. I continued to look around, but there was nowhere I could go, until I accidentally stepped on the ocean, and Steven walked right in, only the upper half of his sprite visible, like the swimmers you encounter in the Cerulean Gym. I didn't know he could swim. "Steven."
"The missing one."
Missing one? I paused for a moment. No, he couldn't possibly mean that. I hadn't tried the missing no trick on this hack yet, but it just fit too well. That had to be what he meant. I surfed all the way towards Cinnabar. I began to feel something was off, more so than this already was. Silence. The Lavender Town music had stopped. There was no noise at all, nor were there any Pokemon. I just kept going, finding Cinnabar and surfing up and down the east coast, and lo and behold, Wild Missingno appeared. "Steven."
"Mine!"
Wild Missingno was caught. What the hell? Steven didn't even do anything. He just commanded that atrocity of broken data to join him. No, become his possession. And it did. I was getting more and more disturbed by this all. Checking the start menu, I saw Missingno was not in my party, but instead an item. Making things even stranger, I checked the trainer card as well. Steven had his back to me, his long hair draped behind him, his hands in his pockets. Nothing else. Remembering what he said in the start of the night, I realized what I had to do. I surfed the land and made my way northeast to, where else, Lavender Town. Along the way, I noticed that all the trainers, oddly still out at this hour, wouldn't even look at Steven, all of them turning when he passed, even those that were normally static. I tried talking to one of the officers in the guardhouse-type buildings. Just go. They all said the same thing. The one sent chills down my spine. Sometimes dead is best. My hands were sweating by this point. Steven was about to try the impossible, something some would even see as a crime against nature, which many of these people seemed to share that opinion. I steeled myself. It was just a game, and I was going to complete it. It looked like an eternity to reach Pokémon Tower, but I got there eventually. Taking a deep breath and heading towards the tombstone, I remembered which one. The image of Steven standing before it was burnt into my mind, after all. First, I tried inspecting it. Steven. Mickey. Nothing happened. With a gulp, I opened the menu and selected the missing no from the bag. Oak.
Steven, don't use it!
I was reminded when Professor Oak would magically tell you that you couldn't use a key item somewhere, like when using a bicycle in a building. Though the message this time was different. And even worse, Steven responded to it. Steven.
In a world that cheated me? Why should I play fair?
Steven used it. Obtained? What in God's name did I obtain? I couldn't tell you, because the game took away my control. Without my input, Steven began to leave the tower on his own, without walking single step by single step. The Lavender Town theme started again as he left the tower and began his excruciatingly slow journey against my will. Each time he crossed one of the borders where the music would change, it got progressively slower, more and more disturbing by the time he had reached Cerulean City. It was a demonic rumbling. I just stared, watching him, trying to guess what he was going to do, but it was getting more and more obvious. He was headed towards Pallet Town. The music had all but stopped when I had got there, playing single note by single note. He went exactly where I had guessed, right into his own house, inside and up the stairs. At this point, there was no music. Steven moved step by step, stopping at his brother's bed, turning to face him. At first I thought the game froze, but he didn't do anything. He just simply stood there and I couldn't move him. I did, however, find out I could open the pause menu. I was terrified to look, but I couldn't stop myself. I selected the trainer card. There was a low growling noise, like a distant Pokémon cry. Steven was looking at me again, directly at the screen. He was hunched over, his bangs obscuring his face. His hair was wild and feathered out. Between his bangs, there wasn't even a face at all, just black, and two red eyes staring straight forward, a white grin contrasting with the darkness. That wasn't all. His name was now Navis. I couldn't look away. My eyes were glued to his, not breaking contact for some reason. My vision was getting blurry until I couldn't see very well. My face grew wet. I was crying like a baby. There was nothing I could do to hold back the tears. I was with this boy from the start. I built him up to greatness and was then forced to watch his decline after a tragic accident. And now he was this thing, this abomination. I watched him go insane. Holding my tears and wiping my eyes, I closed out of the trainer card and tried to save the game, wanting to just quit. The game informed me that this was impossible. Nothing can be saved now. The pause menu wouldn't close no matter what I did, so with no other option I checked the bag. Nothing happened. I checked Pokémon, and there was one. A single sprite met me. It had 0 HP. Its status, dead. Its name, game. I selected it and was greeted with 4 options.
Status. It's her. Switch. Never. Close. No. Strangle.
My fingers shaking. I selected strangle, and the menu closed, showing Steven in the room once more. And Nevis,
Goodbye.
the game shut itself off. I was more dumbfounded than frightened. In a bit of shock, I turned it back on. The title screen showing the maniacal Steven and a horribly glitched Charizard. I pressed start and then continued. All I saw was a zoomed-out view of Pallet Town, showing Steven's home in the west, tall grasses surrounding it, those unmovable stones blocking it from the rest of the town. The image was completely static. No music, no movement, before fading to white, before going back to the title screen. It was as it was when I first popped it in, a trainer and a Charizard. I attempted to hit continue.
No.
And that, my little shadows, was Pokémon Strangled Red, a Pokémon gaming creepypasta. My final thoughts on the story? This story was perfect. Flat out perfect. This is normally never something I say for a creepypasta because even the best out of them usually have at least 1 or 2 flaws, but hands down, this story in and of its own self was absolutely perfect in every shape and form. I don't have anything really, to say that's negative about this. This story managed to incorporate so many different things in a creepypasta that made me fall in love with this. Like, this is by far my #1 Pokemon creepypasta out there. In my own personal opinion, that is. But even then, though, what did I like most about the story? What I loved the best about this entire thing was the storyline. I mean, the way the protagonist and everything got it, I like how original that was. I mean, it wasn't anything really it really wasn't cliched at all, really, to be honest with you. It was just something that, could happen to any of us. We could go, be searching around, then next thing you know, we see a freaking cartridge in the ground. I mean, not exactly sure why someone would really want to take it, though, but hey, I mean, if it's there, I mean, wouldn't you want to take it? Another thing I really enjoyed about this story, as I've said, was the storyline itself. Within the game, I loved how well this entire thing was made. I love the fact that we get introduced to Steven. We get introduced to him. We get to learn about, his life. We get to learn about a whole lot of everything in just this one specific character. And then just like that, it crumbles. It's gradual, but it gets there. And when it gets to the final end, I swear to you guys right now, the ending of this story, the last few paragraphs, was spine-chilling for me. This entire story was a nail-biter. And I honestly can't sit there and praise this story enough. I'm just gonna move on to my final, my final rating. I give this one a 10 out of 10 plus, meaning this one is so good it deserves an extra plus on that one. What did you guys personally think of this creepypasta? Did you enjoy it? Did you also enjoy the video I made today? What did you think of my review? Do you agree with it or not? Leave me your thoughts down in the comment section below. I'm the Shadow Reader, and like always, roll the outro. Hello there, my little shadows. It's me again, your master, the Shadow Reader. I hope you all enjoyed this little tale of horror. I honestly hope I didn't traumatize you too much after this. If you're new here and want to become one of my little shadows, then hit that subscribe button down below. And also make sure to turn on post notifications so that you can be the first to watch my brand new content when it comes out. Until then, sweet dreams, my little shadows.